By the way, I'm not a professor. I don't have a fancy PhD. I'm just a teacher. The chair is for later. Okay. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much, Abdi, for inviting me here. That's all very interesting to meet all of you. And I hope I can share some ideas with you. As I mentioned before, I've known Abdi for a very long. Everybody can hear me, okay? I have a big voice, so I don't need the microphone, right? Because I'm going to need both hands later. If only I had a third hand. So Abdi, as I mentioned before, I met Abdi a long time ago, before MonsoonSIM even existed as an idea in his head, right? And we recently reconnected, and so just for a few weeks now, we've been exploring this idea of MonsoonSIM generates a lot of data. Can we use this data to do something interesting, to teach students analytics? Visualization, self-service BI tools like Tableau or Power BI. Is there something we can do? And I've been very encouraged with the interaction that I've had with Abdi and his team so far in terms of the engagement, the turnaround, right? So just in a few weeks of interaction, I can take credit for 2 of the new features in version 7. And the fixing of 1 major bug also. Right? So you're welcome. Just to set some expectations, we're just 30 minutes here. A little bit about me. You heard about my past history with SAP and the ERP SIM, which runs on top of SAP. I've been playing games pretty much my whole life, whether that was board games or video games, right? And for the better part of 10 years, in an educational context, the idea of serious games, games for learning, gamification, whatever you want to call it, I've been doing that for about 10 years now. And in that context, I've also been teaching analytics with this idea of data analytics and all the rest of it before it was even fashionable to call it data science for about 7 years. Right? In 30 minutes, I'm really not going to teach you how to teach analytics. Let's be realistic, okay? I'm not even going to really teach you or train you how to use Tableau in terms of, oh, this button does this and all the rest of it, right? You don't accomplish this in 30 minutes, right? So what I hope to do, though, is just to show you what is possible, okay? Just to make you aware and open your mind to the idea of there are these tools that exist and maybe we can use them to teach this concept of data is valuable. We can analyze this data to make better decisions, for example. That these tools are out there, this is their purpose, expose the students to that. Or even as a tool to scaffold the learning that you actually want to teach them in terms of the actual business concept in terms of playing the game. That maybe with the data and creating their own charts, rather than just, oh, I take this chart that exists already in the interface as is, they develop a deeper understanding of the actual concepts, the business concepts of the game itself, right? So maybe this is all open this to possibility, right? And having done this for 10 years, and 7 years with analytics, speaking from personal experience, I discovered a lot of wrong ways to teach this, right? So I'm going to try and share with you a few ways that I found work better, right? And I find it very interesting between Param and Dr. Ma here in terms of, oh, I teach them everything, that didn't work. Or I teach them nothing, and that doesn't work either, but then they're willing to listen to me actually teach them, right? Instead of, why are you teaching me this, right? And so there is something in the middle. And I definitely, in my experience with all the 20 tips that Param shared, I think I pretty much agreed with all of them in this scaffolding and what you need to do. So the first thing I ask my students when it comes to analytics is, what is analytics? Why do we want to do this in the first place? Okay. And so just to frame it here, we're looking to gain some insight about what's happening in the world. What is happening, right? First level, what is actually going on, right? And then we want to get a little bit deeper. Oh, why does this happen? What causes this, right? Build sort of causality relationships or mental models, hypothesis, test the hypothesis, right? Further, we want to look and say, oh, okay, let's predict. Now that we understand the world better, maybe we can predict what's going to happen, right? And then if we predict accurately or sufficiently well enough, we can better inform what we should do, right? So instead of reacting to, oh, this happened, now I need to react to that and I need to compensate for that or adjust. I can predict and avoid, predict and prepare, or predict and exploit, right? Something is going to happen. Instead of reacting and fixing the problem, I can avoid the problem, or I can exploit the problem, right? I can use this to my advantage, right? So this is why we are interested in doing this data and this analytics, okay? And there's a guy here, Jean-Francois Pouget, put together this framework, and I like the quote, right? He says not to lose sight, and this is the mistake that both teachers and industry practitioners make over and over and over again, which is why they often don't get a lot of return on investment from their business intelligence and data analytics and data warehouses and all the rest of it, is because they forget about the bit in red, right? They get too focused in the tools and the data and the process and the creating reports and forget about which are the decisions that we're actually trying to make better, right? Which ones do we actually want to do a better job of, okay? So it's to enable those decisions. Sometimes you'll see that written as evidence-based decision making, right? I get some evidence, the evidence suggests this is the better choice, so I make this choice, right? Whatever the output of the process, the tool, the methodology, the process, right? It's to make decisions, right? And this is what we do not want to lose sight of, okay? The journey from data to decisions and actions. But even that statement in itself and this ordering implies you start with the data, you do the analysis, and you hope to get something out of it. But this I actually disagree with, right? I actually think that's not a good process and not a good mental way. But time and time again, it's what companies do, and it's what we show students, right? Collect the data, apply some fancy tools, or not fancy tools, as the case may be, Excel, whatever, and hope to get some insight or answer some question or somehow do better, okay? But this is immensely undirected, right? What is the goal? What is the objective, right? Collect data. Which data? I don't know, all of it. Okay, analyze it how? Which data? What should I compare? What should I be looking for? I don't know, all of it. And hopefully we'll find something miraculously interesting that the competition will not see, right? But this is a mistake. It should be the other way around, okay? Should narrow our scope, right? What is the most pressing issue that the company has? Where are we making decisions that are poor? Now, if you don't know the answer to that question, there is your first purpose to begin with, okay? We don't know which of the decisions are actually good or bad. Okay, so our purpose immediately becomes to figure out which of the decisions that we're actually making that are good and bad. Let's start there, right? But start with what is the problem or the purpose. Why are we doing this? Basically, what are we hoping to do better? Okay, specifically, concrete, narrow scope, right? And then from there, we need to determine which are the best tools, which are the best techniques. Is this some dashboard, right, that we create with a tool that managers can refer to 5 times a day? Is this some monthly report that needs to be better? Do we need some machine learning algorithm to create a better Netflix to recommend which movie somebody should watch based on what they watched before? It depends on the business problem we're trying to solve, right? Which technique, which technology, which tools lends itself best to helping us fix this problem or do better in this particular domain, right? And after that, we don't just collect data, right? Which data is relevant to this problem. I need to source the data. I need to validate that it's good, right? Maybe it has errors in it. Maybe it's incomplete, right? Maybe it's not in the format that I need for that tool and that technique, so I have to transform it. Maybe I have to augment it, right? Divide 2 columns, add 2 columns, right? Something that has to be done to source the data, validate that it's good for the purpose that I want, and then transform or turn it into a useful asset for me to actually pump into those techniques to answer the question or the problem that I'm looking for, right? But you always start with the purpose. All right. A couple of things on learning models, because it is, I think, important to the philosophy, right? So Kolb, 1974, this idea of experiential learning, okay, definitely ties into this idea of simulations. And he basically said, you know, there's this cycle here, okay? We have some concrete experience, and then we reflect on that, and we think, you know, why did my mom yell at me? Oh, it's because I was stealing the cookie, right? Okay, so what should I not do? Well, I should either learn to steal cookies better, or not steal cookies, right? I need to either learn not to get caught stealing the cookie, so be better and smarter at that, or not steal the cookie in the first place, right? But that's it, there's this cycle, right? Something happened, I have to pass judgment on whether the outcome was good or bad. Maybe I want to improve on this, reflect, form some abstract, okay, my action led to this, maybe if I do this, it will do something else, and then try again and see what happens, right? So there's a cycle. Now, in my experience in using like games like MonsoonSIM or ERP Sim in the simulation, a lot of the engagement comes from the time pressure, the excitement of you've got to do things quickly, right? And this makes it fun and engaging, right? Because you create this pressure, right? But it also tends to cut out the last two, these items. And you just end up with experience and experimentation, and not a lot of reflection or abstract conceptualization, right? I tried this, I got that. Oops, guess that was wrong. Try something else, right? And so you have not engineering, but what I call change engineering. Change it until I get the answer I want, right? And so the role in terms of introducing analytics and a tool is these two, right? Do all of that, and then after, let's reflect on how well we did, right? And in my experience, you cannot do that under time pressure. They will always revert to, if it's too hard or it's too difficult or I'm out of time, I just go back to change something and see whether it produces the outcome that I want, right? And so what I will show you today, as I think a suggested approach, because I've tried this different ways. Play the game more slowly, right? Okay, but how many seconds per day? Is 45 enough? Is 180 seconds enough, right? And the answer is it's never enough, and it's too much, all at the same time. It's never enough. You know what, I don't have time for that. 30 seconds, I'm really not going to be able to do the job. I need 3 minutes, so I'm not going to do it. Okay, I give you 3 minutes. Okay, but now I'm bored because I'm waiting for something to happen in the game, right? So to keep the fun and the engagement, I think it's more interesting to have short cycles of this, and then stop, and then do this part, right? So you have short little games, short, and pause and stop. Okay, let's analyze, reflect, build a conceptualization, formulate, okay, when we restart the game, what will we do? Okay, we'll do this, we expect this outcome. Okay, let's do it and let's see what happens. Go through the cycle again. After him came Aguirre's, double loop learning. Okay, so once again, in the game you tend to have a lot of this, right? Yes, I formulate some strategy, but to be honest, it's not really strategy, it's tactics, right? Oh, I ran out of stock, what should I do? Oh, order more. How much? I don't know, we seem to be running out often, so let's order a lot, right? Whereas the double loop learning is you want to come back to, what assumptions was I making? Were those assumptions valid or not? Can I test those assumptions? Ooh, you know, I thought this, but actually it turns out it's not really true. Informs the strategy, the tactics, right? And so this is what we're looking for in the introduction of the analytic tool, right? That second loop of learning, the reflection, the conceptualization, right? When we're talking about analytics, there's multiple levels, right? I touched on this already a little bit, right? I don't know if anyone's seen these before. Anybody seen these things before? No, that's new? Yeah, okay. So, this is level of sophistication, right? When we're talking about analytics and looking at data, right? The first thing, descriptive, is this what happened, right? We don't necessarily care why it happened, how to prevent it, how to make it happen again, if it was desirable. It's just what happened, okay? And this is a pretty good level to start with students, right? You're learning the fundamentals of how do I get the data into a tool, create a chart with that, right? And then I want to interpret this chart, right? What happened? And then you go down to the next level in terms of diagnostic. Okay, why did it happen? Was it something in the environment that changed, or was it a decision that you made, right? Key, first of all, right? Are you responsible, or I'm not responsible? Because that leads to, if I'm responsible, I can do something. If I'm not responsible, well, maybe I can't affect it. It's just going to happen, right? But maybe I can look for other things, early indicators, that will suggest something is going to happen, right? So a classic example, you're looking at macroeconomics, for example. You're looking at a country's economic growth. An early predictor is the number of applications to start construction projects, right? People start applying for construction projects, you know the economy is picking up, right? It's an early indicator of economic growth, right? So it's not something that you can necessarily affect yourself and your own decisions as a small company, but it gives you this clue that something's coming, so I can be prepared to take advantage of that, right? And then prescriptive, we get down to we know what happened, we know why it happens, we can even get to the level of guessing or predicting with some degree of success what's going to happen, so what should we do? If the economy is turning up, we must do this, we behave like this. If the economy is going to be turning down, we should do that. All right, so this is 4 levels. Now, not to be confused, all of these things always happen, right? It's a question of how much is in the tool and the methodology and how much is left to the human brain to fill in the rest of the way, right? Because we're still talking that we're going to make decisions, right? We're doing this, the reason to do descriptive analytics, what happened, is still to inform our decisions, right? So it's not just, oh, that's interesting, that happened. Well, we're interested in, like, how does that help us make decisions, right? Knowing what happened, right? And so we're talking really, it's just how much are we asking the human to do, and how much are we getting help from a systematic approach to analyzing data in a rigorous, repeatable form by preparing reports or running R scripts or creating visualizations or what have you, okay? And so basically the what happened, well, you know, the humans have to figure out how to interpret that, good, bad, desirable, should we want that to happen again or not, right? And the why did it happen, so we get a little bit deeper and a little bit sophisticated, even down to that Netflix example that I gave. Do you think a human sits there and looks at what movie you watched last night to recommend what to watch tomorrow? No, 100% automated, right? And so here's what we're talking about with prescriptive and complete decision automation, right? Which is what you need at scale, right? If you're going to do something like recommend something to a specific individual, at scale, has to be automated. So that's just to understand the framing, the teaching philosophy, okay? The idea behind it, the different levels. And what we want to do, what we will not want to do is this. And this I've done myself several times. It doesn't work. And I've seen others as well. And it's this idea that students know how to play the game. Students understand the decisions in the game, right? Now that may be true. But okay, if I give them a tool and give them access to the data, that's all they need. They don't need to do anything else, they'll figure it out because they know the decisions, right? And this does not work. And you have to scaffold them, you have to walk them through the mindset. And so what we want, or what I would recommend we do, and I find it's more effective, is we start them on this descriptive. Because a lot of the time they will want to go straight to prescriptive, right? What price should I set? Okay, that's actually the hardest thing to answer, because it's actually the one that's the most complicated with the most interactions, because it depends on what your competitors' prices are and so many factors, right? So we want to start them on something easier that they can actually get their head around, right? So we want to walk them through, start with the descriptive, the diagnostic, the predictive, right? And the way we do that is rather than just saying, there's the game, there's the data, here's the tool, you click this button, it creates a pie chart, you're off on your own, is all of these identify a problem or purpose, is we want to give them the problem or the purpose, right? Give them the question to answer. And then walk them through, okay, how do I answer this question, right? Which data do I need? What should the chart look like? Should it be a bar chart, a line chart, a pie chart? What should it be, okay? How much time do I have?
Now
Go on.
you have another 10 more minutes.
10 more minutes, all right.
Let me see. You have about
10
15
minutes?
minutes. 15 minutes.
That's good. Okay. So, in my initial experimentation, right, and I said, I haven't experimented a lot. I think, to be honest, the last version of MonsoonSIM that I saw was version 1. Okay, and then I saw 6, and now 7, right? So, I just stuck with something simple, retail, a narrow scope. What can we do with this, right? Found some things, discussed with Abdi, make some change to make it more interesting. Okay. So really, really simple, okay? And I'm not suggesting that you do this, you can do whatever you want, right? But just as an idea to show you, constrain the scope, focus the student on one problem, learn how to solve this problem, move to the second one, the third one, let them start formulating their own problems to solve, right? Okay. I don't actually want the forecast to be turned on because we want to use the tool and the data to kind of create our own idea of forecast, right? Here you're giving them the answer, right? So we don't want this. But I turn it on so that after we look in Tableau, we can compare with what it says in the forecast and see whether we get the same result or not, right? Otherwise, standard retail, except I tweaked a few things in the demand parameters, okay? Let them change price, so they have something to play around with and a little something to do, otherwise they'll be bored. But don't let them do procurement, just, you know, okay, you go change your price, that's it, right? And all I'm gonna do is run the game for 7 days. Just 7 days, 1 week, right? Okay, you're gonna run the company for a week, let's see what happens, okay? Oops.
Just click this. Yes. Yeah. And reconnect again.
Do you need a faster Wi-Fi? Because you can use mine. I think it's faster.
It was okay before.
Okay, try it.
It,
Maybe mine is faster. Yeah. 80 Android, I think.
Turn on the Wi-Fi again. Yeah. Click the
I only see one. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Connect. App D1234.
What?
ABDY.
ABDY.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
After this, MG145.
No.
No?
Yes, right.
Refresh. Run the game possible.
Okay. So just 7 days, right?
Yep.
1 week.
And change the price.
No. So while that's happening, okay, you see, okay, the student, okay, it's going to be, what, 7 times 15 seconds, like 1:45, right?
Yep.
So not too long, it's going to go quite fast, and, you know, let them change the price if they want to or something, you know, because just to have something to do, right?
Yep.
So we wait, we watch. You know, let them look at some reports if they want, you know, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Okay? At this point, what we're just interested in is having some data to be generated to analyze, right? That's all that we care about at this point, right? Just go do stuff. Right? And if you let them change the price, it will be slightly more interesting because, in essence, they will affect each other and interact with each other, right? But if you don't want to wait in the class, you could easily run the first 7 days before class. And then they show up and you say, okay, so you've just taken over this company, it's been running for a week, let's take a look, right? It's just that everybody will have the same price, and so there might not be as much variability in the data. But thanks to one of the new version 7 features, in that this intraday demand is not exactly the same every day, there's some small variation, right?
How many percent you use? 5%?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Stop.
So at this point we can already draw their attention to a few things, like, for example, here in Jakarta we're already very low on stock, and stock out of one product already, right? And the others not so much, okay? So there's not the same level of demand in each, right? And this they can easily see for themselves just based on, okay, I started with 10,000, this is how much I have left, okay? But at this point in the game, the decision that we want, or that I want to bring their attention to, right, is you've run out of stock, you're running low of stock in the others. I only want you to answer one question, which is, we need to reorder products. How much of each product should I order in each of the locations? That is the only question we want them to be thinking about and answer at this point, right? Just one single question, right? How much to reorder, okay?
The sales, unit sales.
Now, without the use of a tool, you can say, oh, well, let's just replace what was there, or make some subjective, well, I ran out here, so maybe I want more there and less there, right? There's this question of, yeah, but how much, right? And I know what I sold, but I really don't know what the pattern of the sales was. Did I sell the same amount every day? Was it different from one day to the next? I don't know, right? Will it be the same the next 7 days than the last 7 days? I don't know. Let's look for some patterns and let's make some hypothesis about why it might have occurred or whether it will repeat, right? All right, so new feature in version 7. Students also will tend to gravitate towards, especially if you tell them, you know, profit is important, they'll start to focus on revenue and things like this, right? The revenue is very sensitive to your price and whatnot. And we want something even simpler, right? So let's just draw them down to units sold, right? Because the question that we're asking them is not how to increase your sales revenue, but it's how many units to purchase, right? So how much revenue we got is not as interesting as in what quantity did we sell, right? That's the purpose of giving them a well-framed question, right? How many units to buy means how many units we should sell, right? Now, so we see some data here. Okay, we already have a chart, and we say, oh, this is interesting. We can already see that something interesting happened in the last 2 days, right? We definitely sold more in these last 2 days. Okay, I wonder why. Let's see. But here, you know, you have this chart, and you can take the chart, and that's it. You cannot really transform it into something else. I mean, you can turn things off, right? But you take it or leave it, right? It's a canned report. And now, thanks to version 7, which Abdi demonstrated before, we can download this data and put it in some other tool, Excel, Tableau, whatever you want. Me, I'm going to use Tableau. So I quickly download this. I open up Tableau. I connect to a text file. So now remember, I'm not training in how to use the product, right? So I'm going very fast. So wait, what did you do there? That's not the purpose, right? I'm just showing you what's possible. Okay, I have a preview of the data. Great, cool. Let's go over to my worksheet and let's start to create some charts, right? Now I say, okay. I basically want the days to be along the bottom, right? So left to right. Whoops. So that's normal. Okay, put the days and let's start dropping. Items and say, okay, let's start looking, okay, and say, oh, okay, let's see what is this demand. But okay, I don't like the line chart. I actually want the bar chart, so we can immediately start showing them, you know, to create different things. Now I'm showing you very fast. We can also talk about other Tableau features, which I would have pre-taught them. Don't worry about what I did in changing the green to blue and all the rest of it, right? But here we see, okay, this is interesting. What can we notice from this, right? Describe what happened, okay? And you can ask them some other sub-questions, right? Now remember, the overall purpose is we want to decide on how much of each product to buy for each location, right? But let's ask questions. Is the demand different for Jakarta for the 3 different products?
Pretty similar.
You know, do we sell twice the apple juice than the others? No, right? Each one of these charts is each product. I apologize that the text is probably quite small and you can't read, but basically it's apple, it's melon, and it's orange, right? Okay. So the first thing we learn is the demand for all 3 products is actually kind of the same, right? Okay, but let's add the other locations in and start to, you know, see if we can compare. So, okay, but you know, this is becoming a bit difficult now because I'm trying to compare Jakarta apple with KL apple, and you know, it's there and this is there, and I'm trying to look at the numbers, and you know, this is a bit difficult. So okay, I might need to remove some stuff so that I can compare just these 2, right? Apples to apples. Sorry, and I got melon there, so that's a mistake. So let's put the KL apple and the Singapore apple. Say okay, right? And we learn that they're not actually the same, right? So by location it's different, right? Okay, so is the assumption that the demand is the same for all the products in one location but different per location? Or was it just for Jakarta that they happen to be the same, right? But here we quickly learn that the data we have and the format that the data we have is every time we want to compare, it's not so easy. We have to remove things and then put them back, right? We have to keep dragging these on and off, and what we want is something that allows us to compare more easily, all of them at once, or more easily apply some filters, right? And so what we learn here is actually that the structure and the way that we got the data, it limits us, right? And it's because we don't actually have 9 measures, okay? We actually only have 1 measure, units sold. That is the only KPI, right? But we should only have 1, not 9. And the issue is because we have 2 dimensions that have been wrapped up and encoded in the measures, right? Jakarta is not really a measure, right? Jakarta is a dimension, it's the location. It would be better if we had in the dimension something called location that had 3 values, Jakarta, Kuala Lumpur, and Singapore. Same thing with the products, right? Product is a dimension. And we would only have 1 measure, units sold, right? And we also see something that there's this strange thing here of day 0 with nothing, right? which is an artifact from the simulation using day 0 to initialize. But that happens in real life too, when you export a report and the first row is some blank line, right? And it interferes, right? So we want to systematically learn to deal with these kind of issues. Clean the data, filter out things that are irrelevant, reshape this to recreate it in a way that is more usable, right? And so now I can go back and say, well, on this data source tab, we can actually do things. The tool gives us the power to do these kind of things that we need to do. And so, for example, the first thing we can do is add a filter to say, well, okay, I want to exclude day 0, right? So I only want things that are, 1 or more, right? So get rid of the day 0 line, and I do that once in the data. Not every chart I have to remove. Right now, systematically it's dealt with, right? Okay, and now I have these things that are all columns, but I don't really want them to be columns, right? And so Tableau has this feature where you can basically unpivot data, what they call unpivot or pivot in your data. Click, right? And we say pivot, and it's going to actually do this for us, okay? So now I have the pivot field, which was actually the name of the KPI, and the data value of it. So this actually is now my real KPI, right? And so I can go and rename this to be units sold, because that's what it actually is, right? The day is good. And what did I miss? Okay. So these leftover artifacts, I don't want them anymore, okay? Yeah. I don't know why they're still there, because I should have had Jakarta, Kuala Lumpur. Did I miss something? Okay, 1 second, sorry. Let's put this back. I have all 9, right? Okay, give it. Okay, I'm not going to waste time trying to figure this out for the time being. But the idea here is we're trying to teach the students that just having the data is not enough. Sometimes the data comes in the format that doesn't support the analysis or easily do the analysis you want, right? And so this is the transformation, augmentation, cleaning process, right? So this is units sold. This one, now I have location and product in a single thing, right? But that's still not what I want. I actually want to split these, right? And so in Tableau, I can actually say split. And it's going to create 2 new ones for me, that it automatically finds that there's the hyphen in all of them and split them, right? And so now I can rename this one to be location. And I can rename this one to be product, right? I actually don't need this one anymore, so I'm going to hide it. And I don't want these either. I don't know why I can't hide them. Anyway, okay, sorry about that. But now I actually have location and product as dimensions. And this is the one that I'm only interested in this measure, right? Now, of course, these don't exist anymore, so I need to get rid of them and start again. So let me clean the slate. And now I can do some very interesting things, like I still put the day on the columns. I just have one simple measure, units sold, right? But now I can analyze these different ways, right? Okay, let's look at it by location, right? Let's look at it by product and location, right? So I can build these small little charts now very quickly. All 9 combinations, all on the same chart, right? As a bar chart.